This episode is brought to you by Trailer Park Yard Games, where over 28 games are delivered directly to your party. We park the trailer, you party.
So I go in and the doctor says, okay, we're going to do a sonogram. And he says, we're going to look vaginally first to see, because if the baby's only 6 weeks old.
That means vagina, Bill.
Just making sure you understand that. Yeah.
They put a little thing inside.
He loves being in a room with all
so
these
he
girls.
pulls up this huge wand, and Nathan goes, do I need to leave? I said, buddy, it's about to get a lot darker in here, and you just need to sit on top.
Yeah.
And so he goes in, and...
Literally.
Yeah, literally. And he says, oh my gosh. And I looked at him and I said, if you tell me there are twins in there, so help me God. And he said, no, everything's fine. And I was like, okay. He said, I'm going to look on your stomach. And I was like, okay. So he pulls out, the sonogram, does all that. And he says, now how far along did you say? And I said, I really don't know, 6 to 8 weeks. And he said, well, you're just a little off. And I said, what, like 8 to 10? He said, no, 17. I missed the whole first half of pregnancy.
Oh my gosh, didn't even know?
Did not know. I hadn't been tracking anything. And
You were busy.
Let's have a chat, talk this and that with BB and Jaisy.
Hello, and welcome to the PB and Jaisy show. I'm going to start with my elder. Who is to my left?
Billy.
Thank you. So much respect.
Yeah.
I'm Bill Steadle.
Oh, Bill Stedham. Okay. I'm Sarah Paget. We've got...
Now it's your junior.
Yes.
Jaisy George.
We went in age order.
Hello.
And weight order. All right. So today, I have a very special guest here today. Known her probably longer. Well, I've known her longer than I've known y'all put together.
Really?
I've known her forever. And she hasn't been in Mansfield for a while, but a Mansfield native. And yeah, I'm just excited to have her. So Kat, if you want to introduce yourself and tell a little bit about yourself.
I'm Kat Ledkins. I live in Lindale, Texas, and like Sarah said, I'm originally from Mansfield. We moved whenever I was a sophomore in high school. Went from a class of like 1,500 to a class of 63. So it was a major culture shock moving.
For sure.
But yeah, I still call Mansfield home all the time.
So do you get to see Miranda Lambert on a regular basis?
I've actually ran into her at Walmart.
No way.
She looked like a
Miranda
hot mess,
Lambert
and it
shops
made
at
me feel so much better about myself.
Oh, great.
Like, she just had on like gym shorts and a t-shirt, hair up in a ponytail. She was with her mom and dad, and it just made me feel so much better.
The most important thing I need to know, did she have her Airstream with in a parking lot?
Oh,
No, she did not. She did
is
not.
that what she known for? Her
She has an Airstream.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yep.
So
the whole
Kat,
community.
So
Yeah.
I've got you labeled as mom, of course, daughter,
Right.
sister, aunt,
Yes.
also, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then business owner. Tell us about this new business you started. How's that going?
So I got this recipe from my great grandmother, and a friend of mine also had a recipe of toffee. And I kind of merged the two recipes together. And I told my husband one day, I said, wouldn't it be crazy if I like sold like some bags of toffee? Like, do you think people would like buy that? Do you think they would be interested? He's like, I don't know, post to Facebook, let's see. And so I posted on Facebook. I said, would anybody be interested? $8 to $10 a bag, just depending on like what ingredients were, and I had a huge like following saying, yes, we've had it before, we want it. And so I started with just toffee, and now I do Buckeye balls and tiger butter and coconut macaroons and granola bars and all these different things. And my husband's like, what are you doing tonight? Oh, I'm cooking. Like,
So
never
what
mind
is...
the fact that I have 1 million children and I'm...
What kind of balls?
Yeah, I was going to say, for
Eyeballs.
someone who doesn't
Yeah.
really know about, I don't know, this sounds like maybe some country baked goods.
Yes, yes.
What are Buckeye balls? What is something butter?
Tiger butter.
Tiger
okay,
butter.
so
What
tiger
is that?
butter is white chocolate, milk chocolate, and peanut butter all marbled together.
Oh my
It's almost like a fudge like bark. It's amazing.
Do you have any in your purse?
I don't. Darn it.
Look at Bill's
I
face.
know.
I was hoping
He's
you
like,
brought
I thought you were going to get
samples.
samples. Yeah. Toffee, of course, is you mix the toffee, and then I melt milk chocolate on top, and then sprinkle it with pecans on the top, and then you let it sit up and harden, and then you break it all apart.
And
then
how do we buy this stuff?
you can just let me know, and I'll get you a bag. I can send it through Sarah.
Okay. Yeah, I'll buy several bags.
Exactly.
so
Yeah.
fun.
Buckeyes
Try this.
are peanut butter and powdered sugar mixed together, and so they're really, really rich. And then you dip them in chocolate.
Make them even more rich.
Exactly. Yeah. It's a
Well,
little
and,
bit
so, and what's the name of your business?
Mama Bear Sweet Treats.
Oh, that's so
yeah,
cute.
Mama Bear.
That's
Yeah,
so
Mama
cute.
Bear Sweet Treats.
So speaking of being a mama,
Yes.
I, of course, I believe your family is beautiful. Some people would say it's different and it looks a little
Yes.
different. So tell us a little bit about that and maybe some interactions that you've had because I know living in the South can be a little different. So
Yeah.
talk about that a little bit.
So my husband and I, we went through infertility for about 6 years. We suffered through infertility, and there was nothing wrong with me, nothing wrong with him, and doctors said we had unexplained infertility. And so,
great.
which I feel like that's even harder
So
to
no
hear.
answers. Great.
Exactly.
Thank you.
Because you don't know where to fix it. Like if you could tell me what's wrong, we could have a plan and we could fix it. I'm very much a type A personality, so I want to have a plan to fix things. Right. And whenever they said nothing's wrong, I was like, okay, well, what do I do? So there was nothing to move forward with. And so we went through exploratory surgery to see if I had endometriosis. We went through multiple rounds of IUI, which is intrauterine insemination. We never got to IVF just because we couldn't afford it. And so I was a teacher. I'm a teacher, and my husband was a teacher at the time, and we were just like, we can't afford that. And so he said we had thought eventually we would adopt down the road, but he said, we've always had that on our heart to adopt, so why don't we just look at foster to adopt and let's see, because we couldn't afford straight adoption either, because that's anywhere from $15,000 to $50,000. And he said, why don't we look at foster to adopt and see what happens. And I was like, oh my gosh, okay. And so because with fostering, you run the risk of possibly losing the baby and, the baby going to family or back to the bio parents with reunification.
I can't imagine getting so attached to the baby.
And it's hard, but at the same time, which I'll get into later, you're supposed to just love that baby for that season that they're with you, and that may be 2 weeks or it may be 2 months or it may be 2 years or it may be forever, but at the same time, you have to remember they have nothing. So you're called to just be everything for them. And yes, it does hurt, but at the same time, like I told my husband, you're 30, 35 years old, your heart will heal, but they're 2 weeks old and they have nothing.
Oh, yeah.
So we went through, let's see, I'm a teacher, like I said, and in over spring break, I filled out all of the paperwork for fostering to adopt and stuff and just getting involved with our fostering agency, which if you ever go through with fostering to adopt, I recommend getting with an agency because they're just a huge advocate for you, just to be someone on your side that knows the legal system, that knows how everything works. They can just tell you what step is coming next.
What year was this?
This was back in 2015.
Okay.
And so, 2015, 2016. And so I filled out all the paperwork over spring break, so like middle of March. And our agency that we go through, it's based out of, they have an office in Abilene and they have an office in East Texas and Tyler. And they're called Christian Homes and Family Services. And they are just wonderful. But there's a lot of trainings you have to go through with adoption, obviously, and fostering. They want to make sure that you have all the trainings that you've done.
Which is crazy because you don't have to have any training if you just have a baby, right?
Yes. Yeah. They just give you a baby and you go home and you're like, oh my God, what do I do? Yeah. There's tons of trainings that you have to go through, and it's kind of daunting. Like they give you this huge list of like, all these things you have to do, and it's like, oh my gosh, I'm never going to be able to get this done. But our agency, they do a day called Pride Training, and it's just an all-day training, and you get all of your trainings for the entire year done in one day.
Oh, nice.
And it's a long day, and it's rough, but you get it all done. Like, just knock it all out, And so we went to this Pride Training April 9th. So, like, 2 to 3 weeks after I had finished doing this. And so we walk in, and we get there. It was there was probably 15 to 20 couples, like just our whole agency came to do the training. And we were at a couple's house, and they have a really large house, and the agency provided breakfast, and then we all kind of brought potluck lunch and stuff. And so during breakfast, one of the families there said, hey, we have a baby with us. She's been injured really bad. She's very tender, so don't pick her up. Like if she cries, just let us deal with it, because we know how to handle her where she's not going to get hurt or anything like that. And I was like, I'm not touching that baby. Yeah. And so I was like, yes, ma'am, no problem. And Nathan was standing right next to me whenever that was said, my husband. And so we go through the whole morning training. We break to go to lunch, and I walk into the kitchen to get food, and my husband's not there. Now, Nathan is 6'4", and he's like a biscuit away from 300 pounds. Oh, so he's large.
You're not missing him.
No. Yeah. And so, he's a big man, and I'm like,
a biscuit
where
away.
did he go? Like, I've misplaced.
It's very alarming though when you misplace a big man.
Yes.
I have a big man. And I'm like, where did he go? Yeah. And I'm like, where the heck did he go? Like, I've lost him, literally, like from walking from the living room to the kitchen. So I go back in the living room, and y'all, he is holding this baby that we are not supposed to touch. Oh no. And I'm like, Nathan,
what are you doing? And he said, well, she woke up. So I picked her up. I said, remember how they said don't touch her? And he's like, I have no idea what you're talking about. He was standing right next to me.
That's a man thing.
Yeah. So I went and found this lady, Nancy, and I said, Nancy, can you come with me real quick? And so we went in there, and I said, she woke up. He picked her up. Obviously, he doesn't follow rules.
Yeah.
Sorry.
But she's not crying.
Exactly. Yeah, she was fine. She was laying on his chest, just happy as can be. She was, at this point, she was about 5 months old, 4 to 5 months old. And she said, well, if she's happy and you're happy, like, I'll go make you a plate of food if you just want to. So Nathan held her that entire afternoon. Yeah. So we leave, and this is on a Saturday. We leave, and Nathan says, hey, on Monday, I want you to call and kind of check on the status of that baby. And I was like, what are you talking about? Because I didn't bond with her because I follow directions, unlike you. And he's like, can you please just calm down? And I said, here's the deal. I understand the husband is supposed to lead the family. I 100% biblically believe that and trust that. But this is a baby we're talking about, and I don't trust you that much. Like, I love you, but I don't trust you whenever we're talking about a family here. And he was like, can you please just shut up? And so Nathan and I have been best friends since I moved to East Texas as a sophomore. And so he just knows me. And he's like, can you please calm down? Yeah. And so,
which never tell a woman that, by the way.
Exactly. Yeah.
Okay.
Is that a hint? I should learn that by now?
Yeah, do not.
Yeah, don't tell a woman to do that. Yeah.
It's not a good idea.
And so I call on Monday, call to our agency, and I'm like, Anna, she's our caseworker. I'm like, Anna just appeased me. Like, Nathan just wanted me to call and check on the status of that little girl. And she was like, well, actually, I saw Nathan holding her, and I thought it was a perfect fit. So I've already started the paperwork for her to come to y'all. And I was like, say what? Oh, no. And so that was, like I said, April 9th, and June 5th, she came to us.
So you're like 8 weeks from the time you filled out the application?
Literally. People have 9 months, and we had, 2 months. We had time, and it was
I
just
noticed
crazy.
you said she was injured. Do you want to talk about that at all?
Yeah. She was, Carter was taken away whenever she was 2 months old. She was, like I said, severely injured. She had 21 broken bones and 7 ripped ligaments and 4 ripped muscles. And so,
And this is from her parents.
From biological parents.
Abusing
Biological
her.
dad, yeah.
At 2 months
at 2 months old. So imagine a 2-month-old. Their bones are like bendable, and just the force that it would have to come with that. And so, like I said, she was severely injured. The foster parents that had her, they were wonderful. Carter was baby number 215 that they have had. They treat it as just like a ministry. They just love on babies that are in need. And some of those babies go back to be reunified with their parents or grandparents or whatever. Others have been adopted, and we still keep up with them. They're Nene and Pawpaw. And so we still keep up with them. Bruce and Nancy, they're just amazing. But like I said, they were the ones that knew how to hold her and knew how to treat her with tender care because they were used to it. And then there goes Nathan, and they're just barreling in like a bull in a china closet, So
how's Carter now?
Tornado. She's 6 years old. You never know that anything was wrong with her. She runs around like a crazy person. Blonde hair, blue eyes, gorgeous.
You've adopted her?
Mm-hmm, yes. Carter,
awesome.
We got her, and about 10 months later, we adopted her. So her case was pretty quick.
Did you have to go to trial and stuff with that?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
I thought I heard your mom.
Yes, we went to trial. Her case was more open, shut, just because of what had happened to her. There wasn't a chance of her going back to biological dad, obviously. Mom signed her waiver rights fairly quickly, and then there wasn't any extended family for her to go to. Wow. So, yeah.
That's pretty cool, though, that's the first baby that he held.
Yes.
And then that was just kind of like, when you know, you know.
Yeah, exactly.
It's gonna be my daughter.
I know.
And y'all didn't stop there because your family picture is pretty big.
It's big, yes. So Nathan, pulled that stunt on me with Carter. So fast forward, 10 to 12 months, Carter was 15 months old at this time, and I get a phone call. I'm a teacher, and I was a coach at the time, and I remember specifically it was 2:00 because we were changing from class period to athletics. My athletic girls are running down the hallway, and I'm screaming at them, you have 5 minutes to get dressed, you better hurry up. And my phone rings, and so I pick up the phone, and it's Anna, our caseworker, and she says, Kat, I have a question. I was like, okay, well, what's up? She called me all the time, so I didn't think of anything. And she said, I have a 2-day-old baby boy that is leaving the hospital today, and he has no place to go. And I was like, okay, let me call Nathan. Let me see. So I called Nathan, and I couldn't get in touch with him. And I called him, and I called him, and I called him. And so finally I called Anna back, and I was like, we'll take him. And she's like, awesome, you got in touch with Nathan? I said, nope. She said, what's Nathan going to say? I said, he'll be fine. It'll be all right.
It's my turn.
Exactly. Yeah, cool. And so That was at 2:00, and I called Nathan, finally got a hold of him, and I told him, I said, hey, we have a 2-day-old baby boy that's coming to our house this afternoon, this evening. And he's like, what? I said, yeah, Carter's 15 months old. And I'm like, we can do it. It'll be fine. It'll be all right. But like I said, whenever we got Carter, she was 6 months old and a girl. So we had nothing newborn. We had nothing boy. And so not that you like have to have something, that's like blue for a boy, you know, but I was like, we need some things. Yeah. And so after school that day and after practice, we went and raided Babies R Us practically. And so Nathan got to me at about 4:00 or whatever, and we went and raided Babies R Us. And at 7:00, the caseworker was on our doorstep with him. So I found out at 2, and at 7:00, 5 hours later, we had a baby.
Wow.
Yeah. And he was 2 days old, African-American, little boy, cutest little thing you've ever seen. Cam was born addicted to meth and cocaine. So he had some drug withdrawals, just some tremors and stuff like that we had to kind of work through. Biomom tried to get him back multiple times. She tried to work her services. Whenever you have a child taken away from you, the court gives you a list of things that you have to go through, certain training, certain classes, different criteria that you have to meet. So she tried multiple times to get her act together and to get things going. She just, in the end, couldn't pull it all together. Mm-hmm. And so we had to go to a termination trial that I had to testify in, just to kind of say how he was doing, and then to say if I thought one of the hardest things I've ever done was they asked if I thought she was a fit mother. And I was like, I started bawling. I was like, how do you say, no, I think you're an unfit mother?
And she's there, right?
She's sitting there staring at me, and I'm like, it was hard.
So what does that look like? Because I've heard a lot about that. A lot of babies that are in the adoption process do have withdrawals and do have drugs in their system.
Yes.
So what does that look like?
For Cam, he suffered for about 10 months, just roughly. Our pediatrician said that they could suffer anywhere from a few weeks or a few days up to 18 months or so, just depending on the severity of it and what it kind of looked like. Cam suffered for about 10 months. He would have tremors. He would cry a lot in the evenings, especially about 7:00 on until about 10. He just could not get settled and just would cry and cry and cry. Wrapped him tightly, just different things like that.
I bet that was a long 10 months.
It was.
Yeah.
He slept on my chest until he was almost 2. Because he couldn't get settled. Yeah. So even like I would lay in bed and I would kind of prop myself up behind with pillows, about 2 or 3 pillows, kind of be at almost like a sitting up position, and just lay him on my chest until he was about 18 months to 2 years old. And he would just sleep like that.
So now you're about 15, 16 months from the first, or I guess 17 months from the first time you said baby. Now you have 2.
Now we have 2. Yes. Okay. And so, it's just crazy. So we go through, and like I said, they're 15 months apart. Life is insane. And we get pregnant. And I was like, oh my gosh, what the heck? Oh my gosh.
God,
you have a sense of humor, and I don't think this is funny right now.
Kids, and boy, did he give it to
Exactly. And so we get pregnant, and I'm like, oh my gosh. So we told our family. We didn't say it on Facebook or anything, but we told our family, and excited with all them. And about 6 to 8 weeks later, I had a miscarriage. So horrible, dark time. And I told Nathan, I said, I would not wish that on anyone, but at the same time, the Lord has such a way of working out, your story. And so whenever we got Carter was specific. She had to go to a family that had no children, could focus on her one-on-one. And so I always say she was our why we suffered through infertility, because we needed to not have any children in order to get her. And then me going through that miscarriage, again, horrible experience, but at the same time, we wouldn't have gotten our next child if we wouldn't have had a miscarriage. And so I had a miscarriage in July, and Cade, our next baby that we adopted.
Wait. Your next baby?
Next
baby. We already have 2.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, so now
there's
you're
more.
3.
Trust me, there's lots more.
Yeah.
So we, Cade was born in September. Cade was as well born addicted to meth and cocaine. He went to a foster family, the Hayes, and they were wonderful, and they kept him for 6 weeks. They were just foster motivated at the time. They weren't ready to adopt yet. They had just started their fostering journey, and so whenever he became adoptable, that Biomom terminated her rights whenever he was only 5 days old, and she didn't know who the father was. And so
does this not kill you, like to try for so long and then see someone just go?
Yeah. Oh yeah. It's horrible to think again all the time,
I can't imagine.
Pressure and money and everything that Nathan and I had put into trying to start a family, and then you see these families or these moms that
Just get pregnant on a whim.
And Cade.
Or hurt their baby.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes.
Yeah.
Cade, this is going to shock y'all. I can't wait to see your faces. Cade is baby number 10 that mom has had.
Oh,
Baby number
goodness.
10.
And she signed away
does not
rights for
have
all of them.
any
She doesn't have any kids.
She doesn't have any of them.
Does not mom know how that happens?
Exactly, yeah.
I'm
but
wondering,
legally,
like,
you
at
can't do
some
anything
point-
about it.
Yeah, that's what I was wondering. Like, at some point, do they say, like, you have to
No, they
be on
can't do
birth,
anything
you have
about
to
it.
put in an IUD or
Yeah,
something?
yeah, they can't do anything about it legally.
Because that's...
So, and she's about our age. I mean, 35
crazy.
to 40 years old.
So super young.
And super young and beautiful.
And so she abuses drugs and has babies.
Yes, and abuses the system because while
That's
you're pregnant,
crazy.
you get WIC, you get money. I mean, you get all your doctor visits paid
Oh, I
for.
wonder
and
if that's why.
Yeah. I mean, it's just
Wow.
different perks that you can be on, government assistance.
I
you can
can't
have all that.
imagine they can't prosecute somebody for
I know.
that.
Yeah, like I said, Cade's baby number
You'd be
10.
surprised.
I'm wondering with, I think you said Cam, who's your second, who his mom had actually like tried to get clean
yes.
and tried to do those
Yes.
things. Like, how does that work with if they reach out and want to have some sort of contact? Or
You can
something?
have either a closed or an open adoption. We chose to have closed adoptions just because, especially with Kate, with Carter, her history, we didn't want any contact.
Oh, yes, of course.
With Cam, he, the mom just wasn't stable mentally and with drugs and stuff, and so we didn't want any contact. She didn't know who the father was either. And then Cade, mom didn't want anything. Like I said, she terminated rights whenever he was 5 days old. So it was kind of just signed off and done. Now, there are cases, obviously, that they have open adoptions that families still, get together and stuff.
So now you go in the store, you have 3 children?
We have 3 children, yes. And so Cade, at this point, from Carter to Cam is 15 months. From Cam to Cade is 17 months. And so I have 3 children. There's a little white girl and then 2 little black boys. And they're the cutest little
That
things.
is awesome.
They're awesome.
That is beautiful.
They're so cute and they keep me on my toes 100% of the time. And so we...
What kind of crazy questions do you get?
Oh, just,
How old are they now?
just you wait, girl. Right now they are, well, this is another wrench thrown at you. They are 6, 5, 3, and then we have a 2-year-old.
Oh,
So
Wait,
that's
you told us about 3.
There's 4. So I have, we have our 3 children. I went to nursing school for a while. Didn't finish nursing school. I just had a mental lapse of like, what do I want to do with my life? And
I know.
No
I
one
was tired
blames you for
I was
thinking
tired
you
of
might
being
not
a
want to be a teacher.
I'm just like, I'm tired of being a teacher. And honestly, it's not the children; it's the adults.
Parents and other teachers.
And the testing and all that other
Right.
stuff that goes along with it. And so I left originally just to stay home with children. Stayed home for about 2 years, and I said, I don't know if I want to go back. Like, I'm just not sure. And so went to nursing school, loved it, was really good at it, but at the same time was not where I needed to be. But in the middle of nursing school, I go to class one day and one of my friends says, I'm going to have to take a semester off because I just found out I'm pregnant. And I said, oh my God, I would die. Like, I have 3
But you went
kids
home.
and I'm in nursing school and it's just too much on my plate and I just have too much going on. So that was on a Thursday. And I go home and I'm like, you know what? I haven't been tracking anything, but I don't remember. I'm like,
When was the last time I had a period?
yeah, I'm like, so the next morning I get up and it was horrible waiting from that evening to the next morning. I was like, oh my God. Yeah. So I get up and I take a test and it's positive. And I look in the mirror. I looked in the mirror for like 5 minutes and I was like, what am I going to do? What am I going to do?
The same thing you did the last 3
How am
days.
I going to tell my friend that I literally just told was crazy?
Yes, yeah. And so I wrapped up the test and I gave it to Carter and I said, Carter, go take this to Dad. He was sitting in the living room. And so he goes in there, she goes in there and she takes it to Nathan and she says, Dad, Mom said to give this to you. And so Nathan unwraps it and he looks at me and he says, are you kidding me?
You have COVID?
Yeah, I know. And I said, he goes, are you kidding me? And I said, first of all, this is not something I would joke about. I said, how long have we tried for this? Like, this is not something I would kid about, But at the same time, I'm very hesitant to share anything. I mean, we just found out, but I'm like, I'm not sharing and shouting from the rooftops because we've already had a miscarriage and I don't want to go through that again. And so I'm like, we'll just see how it goes. And Mother's Day was about 2 weeks away and he's like, are we going to tell people? I said, no, I need time to process this. Like,
So it was on Facebook that evening.
no. And so I called the doctor over the weekend or the next week on Monday. And I said, I need to come in for an appointment. And she said, well, how far along are you? And I said, I really don't know. I haven't been tracking anything. I said, I would guess 6 to 8 weeks. And she's like, okay. And so, I go in for the appointment and she says, she says at first, we normally only see you at 8 weeks or further along. She said, but go ahead and come in and we'll just kind of see where you're at. So I go in and the doctor says, okay, we're going to do a sonogram. And he says, we're going to look vaginally first to see, because if the baby's only 6 weeks old.
That means vagina, Bill.
Just making sure you understand that. Yeah.
They put a little thing inside.
He loves
there.
being in a room with all
So
these
he
girls.
pulls up this huge wand, and Nathan goes, do I need to leave? I said, buddy, it's about to get a lot darker in here. You just need to sit on tight.
Yeah.
And so he goes in, and
Literally.
yeah, literally. And he says, oh my gosh. And I looked at him and I said, if you tell me there are twins in there, so help me God. And he said, no, everything's fine. And I was like, okay. He said, I'm going to look on your stomach. And I was like, okay. So he pulls out, the sonogram, does it, all that. And he says, now how far along did you say? And I said, I really don't know, 6 to 8 weeks. And he said, well, you're just a little off. And I said, what, like 8 to 10? He said, no, 17. I missed the whole first half of pregnancy.
Oh my
Oh,
gosh,
wow.
didn't even know?
Did not know. I hadn't been tracking anything. And
you were busy.
I was so busy. And he said, have you not been tired? I said, I have 3 kids and I'm in
I'm
nursing
always
school.
tired.
I'm always tired. And
Oh my goodness.
so I missed the whole first trimester when
Which
the
is the one to
majority
miss,
of
right?
miscarriages are. So I was not stressed that whole time
Oh,
because I had
wow.
no idea. And 17 weeks along. So
Oh, my goodness.
yeah. So Nathan's like, okay, now that you're this far along, now we're going to tell our family. I was like, no, I need to
At
process
that point,
this.
the doctor's probably like, do y'all want to know if it's a boy or girl?
Well,
like,
that's what they
we've
did.
got
They
everything here
said,
for you.
do you want to know if it's a boy or a girl? And I said, yeah, we want to know because if it's a boy, Nathan really wanted another girl. I said, if it's a boy, we got to try it. We got to adopt it again or try for another one. And so anyways, they told us it was a girl. And, but yeah, we had like 3 because we were so far along, we had like 3 appointments
And then you
in
had a
one
baby?
appointment.
Oh, wow.
And so Nathan again said, we're going to tell family. And I said, let's wait. I said, I know we're far along, but let's wait just a minute. I just
This
need
is
to, I need
you
to
gotta
soak this
process
in.
it.
Yeah. And so, Father's Day, is like a month and a half or so past that. And I said, let's wait till Father's Day. And so we go to Father's Day and we tell our family and had gender reveal, had everything. It was just crazy. So now we have 4 children. Oldest 3 are adopted, and then we had a little girl. So
do they all start with C? Carter?
all our C's. Yeah,
Cam.
Carter, Cam, Cade, Campbell.
Wow.
Okay, now you're fairly young, so we have lots of
Yes.
time left.
Very, very young.
How many children are we going to have?
Well, okay, so I show up to adoption for Cade. Cade's adoption was 1 week after we had Campbell, so she's 7 days old. And we show up to adoption, and I'm holding Campbell, newborn, and the judge says, wow, 4 kids, and at this point they are 3, 2, 1 newborn. And I said, yes, sir. 4 kids, 3 and under. And he said, sir, are we done? And I said, yes, we're done. And Nathan goes, well, whatever the Lord wants. And I looked at him and I said, unless you plan on marrying somebody else, the Lord says we're done. So, we're in the process of, we're fixing to start building a house. So if we can build a house big enough to have more children, I'm sure we will foster down the road. But I don't know if we'll adopt again. We may. I really don't know. So we're not closing the door.
Never say never.
Yeah,
but
we're not
yes,
closing the door. But as of right now, we're not. Our house is a closed house through our agency.
Well, you need at least one more so you have a basketball team.
Exactly.
true.
Exactly.
And then you can coach.
Then I can coach, which I used to do, so I can go back to coaching.
So what kind of, I'm sure there's questions that you get from people when they see you. I'm sure your kids
Yes.
maybe have had questions at this point.
Yes.
What do you hear?
Our kids are very oblivious to color. They just love it doesn't affect them at all. Whenever I had Campbell, the kids spent the night with my in-laws, and they walked in that following morning. And Carter says, "Oh my gosh, she looks just like me." And Cam, my little black boy, looks and says, "Oh, she looks like me too." And it's like he just has no idea. They're just so cute, and they're just so oblivious to that. But we've also got negative comments as well. I went to Walmart one day with all 4 kids, and I had a lady come up to me in the produce section, an older lady, 70, 75, and she says, "Oh wow, are all these children yours?" And I said, "Yes, ma'am." 4 kids. At this point, they were 4 and under. I said, 4 and under. And she said, "Wow." She goes, "You must be busy." And I said, "Yes, ma'am, I'm very busy." And she said, "Even the black ones are yours?" And I was like,
Wow.
and I looked at Carter, and Carter was 4, and I said, "Carter, let's go. We're not having a very good conversation. Let's go walk away."
People are so dumb.
How
Yes,
rude.
but and I was speechless, and I called my dad whenever I left, and I was just so mad. And he said, "I would have lost my Jesus," and I called good old Rooster. Yeah, and so, but I wanted to say, of course they're mine, or I also wanted to say, no, I picked them up on aisle 4. It's a buy one get one free. It's just like, why would you say that to someone?
Because people are stupid.
Exactly.
They think they can say anything.
Exactly. So we've had good and bad things said to us, but
It's just people being ignorant
Exactly.
too. Yeah.
We have in my neighborhood, like on my street, there's a black family that they've got 3 kids that are all adopted, and 2 of them are little white girls.
Yeah.
And he told me a couple of months ago that that like when he brought him home one day, a cop shows up, and someone in our neighborhood had called the police, thinking that he had like taken 2 little white girls, and he's like, no, these are my kids.
These are my
Like,
children, yeah.
Can you hear them calling for me? I got to get them some Oreos.
yeah.
Like, come on.
We have like a minute. So do you guys want to do level up, or you want to do?
I want to keep this going.
Okay. Do
Yeah, I
we need
think
to
we're
just
good.
take a quick break?
We're good.
We're good. Okay. Let's do our segment that's called.
Tales from the Lockbox.
I really want to hear this one because I see your
Oh,
notes.
yes. So I'm sure you have plenty of like kids say the darndest things
Oh,
kind of
gosh.
stuff. And it's always that they say the weirdest things in public and they say it really loud.
Always.
So this isn't something that one of my kids said, but it sounds like something one of my kids would say. So this lady is at the doctor's office. She's waiting in the waiting area at the pediatrician, and there's an older lady there with, an older kid. And her kid's like 4 or 5. And they're having a good conversation. She's like, oh, he's so cute. Like, how old is she? And she's like, oh, he's 5. And then he's playing with a book, and then all of a sudden he goes, Mom, you remember that time when you tickled me in my tickle nuts? And we just laughed and laughed. And she's like, what? And the lady's like, oh my.
gosh, you touched your child.
And she's like, no, what are your tickle nuts? And he's like, these. She's like, those are your armpits. That's not tickle nuts. And he's like, I like calling them tickle nuts. And she's
Like not in public.
Yeah, not in public, buddy, please.
so then she felt like the need to tell the lady, like, he meant armpit.
Yeah.
We don't touch tickle nuts. Like, I don't know what that is.
That's awesome. All right, Bill, do you want to level up from there?
Like, stop laughing. One of the things. One of the things that has happened nowadays is people have gotten too easy with saying things without thinking.
Yeah.
Obviously,
And-
yeah.
Yeah.
And they just blurt out stuff like they're a 3-year-old talking
Tickle
about
nuts.
tickle nuts. Okay, so it's crazy. But in thinking about what we need to do, I want to go back to the Bible. And if we look at John 13, 34 and 35, this is from Jesus. He says, a new commandment I give you, love one another. As I have loved you, so you must love one another. By this, everyone will know you're my disciples if you love one another. We need to quit being so judgmental. We need to quit saying stupid things. And we just need to love each other and move on down the road. And it is so amazing. I could listen to your story for hours, by the way.
Yes.
For hours.
I've had multiple people tell me, you need to write a book.
Yeah.
You do?
And I'm like, I know. In
need
my
to write
spare
like
time.
4.
Yeah.
Yeah, in my spare time, let me write a book. So maybe that'll be on the agenda one
When
day.
you're not
We'll
making
see.
toffee.
Yeah, and I'm also getting my principal certification right now, so I'm in my master's
So,
classes.
so you don't have any shortage of things to
You
do?
were just go,
None.
go, go.
Are you baking biscuits? Because you said your husband was only a biscuit away from 300.
I
You made Bill so hungry.
I know.
Yeah, toffee and biscuits. We got any gravy
know.
laying around?
Yeah,
If we would have known, we would have put it in order for you.
I know, to
drive
bring
around
you some
here.
treats.
Yeah.
I know.
Well, assuming you take Venmo or Venmo or
Venmo,
whatever
I
it
do.
is.
Emo.
Well, just so it's on the record, it's Nathan, right?
Nathan,
So
yeah.
Nathan, Kat, we're gonna need to leave her here for another 4 or 5 hours before
Right.
she drives home. So don't be alarmed when it takes her a while to
A
get
while to
back
get
to
home.
the house.
She needs a little break.
We need
Yeah.
her, we need her to go to Target and grab a few things for us. So.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much for making
Yes,
the drive out
definitely.
here. Your story is amazing.
Thank
You're
you.
amazing. So good to see you in
You
person
too.
again.
Thank you for loving so much on
Yes.
babies
Yes.
that need it. And
Like I said, that's just,
Making such
we're
a
called to
difference.
love them for a season, however long that season may be. And we luckily got 3 kids and we're able to keep all 3 kids. There's people that are not that fortunate that they lose babies along the way. But like I said, we're just called to love them for a season.
Yeah.
You're raising our future. So
That's right.
it's amazing.
Yes, you are.
Well, thank you so much. Thank you all for listening, watching. Please like, subscribe, follow. We'll have some links below if you want to order some toffee. Or if you're in East Texas, maybe you can look her up. But thank you all so much. Please share us, and we out.
Bye.
Yeah.
Just had a chat, talk this and that with PB and Jaisy.